Some people went to your state Medicaid department and said, we want some taxpayer money to feed the poor. These entities that did that got the money, and then they stole. You're saying that the 300,000 folks have gone to DHS to seek some kind of permanent status or semi-permanent status to stay, at least 300,000, and they paid money to DHS, and DHS has done nothing. So,
That's right. Yeah, they're sitting on their applications.
well, who at DHS is
putting
doing
it in the trash?
Who at DHS is doing this?
Oh, it's Joseph Edlow.
Imagine hearing allegations that taxpayer-funded programs designed to help vulnerable people were instead being used for fraud. That's exactly where Senator John Kennedy began during a recent Senate hearing. Kennedy spent several minutes asking witnesses a simple question. If someone steals taxpayer money, should they be prosecuted?
Some people in your beautiful state went to your state Medicaid department and said, we want some taxpayer money, some being state taxpayer money, some being federal taxpayer money, to feed the poor. And these entities that did that got the money, and then they stole it. Do you think those people should be prosecuted?
I think if there is reason to pursue prosecution, of course they should be prosecuted.
Okay. Do you
And
think
convicted.
their ethnicity should matter?
The ethnicity of these people
The
should not matter.
According to Senator Kennedy, the issue wasn't just the alleged theft itself. He repeatedly focused on another question. Should the law apply equally to everyone, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of background? The witness answered yes, but Kennedy wasn't finished, because he then moved to a second allegation, one that involved restaurant invoices.
Now, some of these thieves also went to some restaurants and said, I need a fictitious invoice that you fed 100 people. You're not going to feed 100 people. You're just going to help me steal the money, and I'll kick back some of the money to you. Do you think those restaurant thieves should be prosecuted?
I think if they have committed crimes, they should be prosecuted,
Regardless of their ethnicity.
regardless of their ethnicity.
For many viewers, that allegation alone would be shocking. But Kennedy immediately raised another example, this time involving services intended for autistic children. And according to the senator, that's where the allegations became even more controversial.
You had some other people in Minnesota who had a different scam. They went to the Medicaid department and said, I need state taxpayer money and federal taxpayer money to provide services to autistic children. And they got the money. And then to maximize the fruits of their theft, they went to well, first, do you think those people?
Same answer to the question.
Okay. Now, in order to generate more money they could steal, they went to some families and said, "Do you have children?" Some of the families said, "Yeah, we have kids." And they said, the thieves said, "Are your children autistic?" And they said, "No." And the thief said, "Well, would you agree to sign paperwork to say they're autistic if we kick back to you some of your money?" Do you think those families should be prosecuted?
Same answer.
After focusing on fraud and accountability, the hearing took a completely different turn. The discussion shifted from alleged public benefit fraud to immigration. And that's where another witness made a claim that caught Kennedy's attention.
I think I heard you say that some people, some folks who've come to our country and are trying to get status to stay, have applied to the Department of Health of DHS, and they've paid money, and DHS is doing nothing
Oh, that's right. Yep, they're
That's
sitting
a-
on
that's
their
a-
applications, not
that's-
crossing them.
That's a pretty bold statement. How many people? I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't know. How many people we're talking about?
About half of the immigrant flow right
So
now.
how many-
90 countries are
how many
affected
people-
by the
How many
State
people?
Department ban.
How many people?
Well, it's at least 300,000 abroad, and probably twice that. when you
So,
consider
so
the
you're saying
majority in
that
the
the
U.S.
300,000 folks have gone to DHS to seek some kind of permanent status or semi-permanent status to stay. At least 300,000, and they paid money to DHS, and DHS has done nothing.
That's right. Yeah, they're sitting on their application.
Well, who
They're
at
just
DHS is
putting them in the trash.
who at DHS is?
Oh, it's Joseph Edlow. He's in charge of it. He came up with this policy to just.
Who is he?
He's the head of USCIS. Joseph Edlow is the head of USCIS. He came up with this
He's
policy
DHS?
where he is just.
Slow down a minute.
Where he's
You've
just-
had too much coffee. Is he at? He's at DHS.
I'm just from New Jersey. So,
I understand. Great state too. Who does he report to?
Secretary Nome, of course.
Okay. Does Secretary know whether this?
I don't know what Secretary Nome knows, but she's aware of the general center of the
Well,
administration.
what's his name?
Joseph Edlow,
Mr. Edlow. Who's his boss?
Secretary Nome.
Kennedy's reaction was immediate. He wanted evidence, names, documents, proof, because the allegation wasn't small. According to the witness, hundreds of thousands of people could be affected.
And you can document all this.
Oh, absolutely. They put out a memorandum saying we're not processing these people, and Secretary Rubio's involved as well when it comes to the
Could you
state.
send me that number, please?
I will absolutely.
Then another explanation emerged. Committee members pointed to backlogs and security vetting as possible reasons for delays. And that raised the central question of the hearing. Was this negligence or caution?
Senator Kennedy, I'm informed that USCIS is slowing adjudication because of the backlog and the lack of vetting of these migrants during the Biden administration is the reason that we've been given.
Yeah, I don't know. I just heard Mr. Beer, and I'm not saying he's right or wrong. Those pretty bold allegations that they're taking the money and they're not doing anything, and I just want to know if it's true or not.
Well, they're making sure that these people are vetted so we don't end up with people like the National Guardsman here in Washington, D.C. was killed by an African.
I don't have a
Parole.
problem with vetting. I just want to know whether what the witness is saying is true.
By the end of the exchange, the hearing wasn't really about a single fraud case or a single immigration dispute. It was about trust. Trust that taxpayer dollars are protected. Trust that government agencies are doing what they're supposed to do. And trust that when serious allegations are made, someone is willing to ask difficult questions.
When you're taking American taxpayer dollars and spending them on an exorcism or a gym membership, something's wrong. The California Medicaid program will pay for tribal prayers. The California Medicaid program will pay for exorcisms. The California Medicaid program will pay for herbal medicines. We've got every fly-by-night artist in America, it seems, going to California to become a healthcare provider to get some of the money. And a lot of the times when they get that money, the money never makes it to the patient. They steal it. Every state has this problem, but some have it worse than others. And one of the ones besides Minnesota that seems to have a problem controlling stealing in the Medicaid program is California.
If the government is spending trillions of dollars every year, why does life keep getting more expensive? Part of the answer may be hiding in a place most Americans rarely think about. Medicaid, a program designed to help people get medical care when they can't afford it themselves. A program that costs taxpayers nearly $1 trillion every year. And according to Kennedy, a program that may be losing staggering amounts of money to fraud, waste, and abuse. Not millions, not billions, potentially more than $1 trillion over the next decade. And when you hear some of the examples he gives, you may understand why he says something has gone terribly wrong. For decades, Medicaid has served as one of America's largest healthcare safety nets. The idea is simple. If someone cannot afford medical care, society helps. It's a concept supported by people across the political spectrum. Few Americans want to see families unable to receive medical treatment because they lack money. That's why Medicaid exists. But helping people and protecting taxpayer dollars are not mutually exclusive. And Kennedy argues that while the goal of Medicaid remains important, the system itself is increasingly vulnerable to abuse. According to him, the numbers are becoming impossible to ignore.
One of the things we could do is stop fraud. One of the things we can do is stop the outrageous fraud in our Medicaid program. Now look, I want to be very clear here. I'm proud of Medicaid. I mean, I'm proud of the fact that in our country, if you're too poor to be sick, we will pay for your doctor. That's not true in every country, as you know, Mr. President. Some countries, they'll just let you die in a ditch. We don't do that in America. We will pay for your medical care, but that's outrageously expensive. It's okay, money well spent, but it's very, very expensive. And one of the ways we pay for people's care, particularly for low-income Americans, but also now even more so for middle-class Americans since Obamacare passed, is through Medicaid. We spend almost $1 trillion on Medicaid every year. And once again, I'm not speaking against the concept of Medicaid. We don't want people to die in America. It's one of the things that separates us from other people. But we spend almost $1 trillion a year, and the federal government, some people don't know this, pays for 67% of all Medicaid spending. Some people refer to Medicaid as a federal state program, and it is. The state puts up some of the money, but the federal government puts up most of the money. We pay for about 67% of all the spending in Medicaid. And Medicaid keeps going up. I mean, I've seen studies that show it's going up anywhere consistently between 6 and 8% every single year. And when you're spending $1 trillion and it goes up 6 to 8%, you're talking about real money. What we also know is that there's an enormous amount of fraud in Medicaid. I mean, we know that. There are a lot of studies out there, and not everyone can agree on how much, but I have seen studies from reputable think tanks that show that Medicaid fraud, stealing in the Medicaid program, runs between $1.1 and $1.2 trillion over a 10-year period. Can you imagine what we could do to lower interest rates or to reduce taxes that we could save $1.2 trillion on our budget?
$1 trillion is difficult to comprehend. 1 million seconds equals about 11 days. 1 billion seconds equals roughly 32 years. 1 trillion seconds? More than 31,000 years. That's how large these numbers become. Kennedy points to studies suggesting Medicaid fraud and improper payments could total between $1.1 and $1.2 trillion over a 10-year period. Those estimates are debated. Experts often disagree about exactly how much money is lost. But even if the true number were only a fraction of that amount, we're still talking about enormous sums of taxpayer money. Money that could be used elsewhere. Money that could reduce government borrowing. Money that could potentially ease pressure on taxpayers. So where does the problem begin? According to Kennedy, one major issue involves eligibility. Who qualifies and who doesn't?
Every state, I want to make this clear, has fraud. I saw an audit done by our Inspector General in Louisiana a few years ago, and he talked about the incidence of fraud in the Medicaid program in Louisiana, the people who were getting Medicaid who didn't qualify. And I said, can you send me a list of all the people you found in the Medicaid program who didn't qualify, who were making too much money. I don't want names. I just want the amounts of money that they were making and how long they'd been on Medicaid. And he sent me the list. And if I stacked it up here, I could stand on it and paint the ceiling. I mean, we had people making $150,000, $200,000, $250,000 a year getting Medicaid. Now that was the state's fault for not checking. Some people say the states don't have any incentive. That's a cynical view. I prefer not to believe that's true. But they see Medicaid as free money since the federal government is picking up most of the tab. I prefer not to think that's true, but it's probably true to some extent. The point is that if our states would do a better job administering the Medicaid program, and stopping the stealing, we could save $1.2 trillion over the next 10 years.
The senator argues that many states simply aren't doing enough verification. According to his example, audits found individuals receiving Medicaid benefits despite allegedly earning incomes that should have disqualified them. If true, that raises an obvious question. How does that happen? Is it poor oversight, administrative mistakes, outdated systems, or something else entirely? Whatever the cause, Kennedy believes states have a responsibility to monitor eligibility more carefully, because every dollar that goes to someone who doesn't qualify is a dollar unavailable for someone who truly needs help. But eligibility isn't the only issue. According to Kennedy, the next problem may be even larger. The people receiving the money, not patients, providers, or at least people claiming to be providers. For most Americans, becoming a healthcare provider sounds like a serious undertaking. Training, certification, background checks, licensing, professional oversight. But Kennedy argues that in some places, individuals are entering the system with very little scrutiny. And once they're approved, taxpayer dollars begin flowing. That's where he turns his attention to two states that have received significant attention in recent years: Minnesota and California.
Every state has this problem, but some have it worse than others. And one of the ones besides Minnesota that seems to have a problem controlling stealing in the Medicaid program is California. Now, California spends an enormous amount of money on Medicaid. They spend about $220 billion a year. The federal government, federal taxpayer puts up $140 billion of that. So the federal taxpayer, the taxpayers who pay money to the federal government put up most of the money. Not all of it, but most of the money. How much does the Fed put up, federal government put up vis-a-vis the state government? Well, in the Obamacare portion of Medicaid, the federal government puts up $9. So for every $1 that the state government puts up for the Medicaid program, the federal government puts up $9. Wow. And some of the public officials in California have started to look at this as free money, just free money. And they don't try to fight the fraud. Now, how do you stop the fraud? One thing a state can do is investigate people who claim they're healthcare providers. If you claim, we saw this as a problem in Minnesota. If you claim to be a home health provider, you're supposed to have a qualification. If you claim to offer to provide after-school services, you're supposed to have a certain level of qualification. I don't think the state government in California even checks. We've got every fly-by-night artist in America, it seems, going to California to become a healthcare provider to get some of the money. And a lot of the times when they get that money, the money never makes it to the patient. They steal it. California, for example, has 12% of the population. In the last decade, they have been responsible for 50% of all of the new healthcare providers formed in America. Most of them are social assistance and so-called healthcare establishments. And there's an enormous amount of fraud there. We saw that once again in Minnesota, which has been publicized more, where people say, I'm now a healthcare provider. Give me the money, and so I can help people. And you give this fly-by-night healthcare provider money, and they never help people.
The Minnesota scandals attracted national headlines. Investigators alleged that programs intended to help vulnerable people became targets for fraud. Multiple prosecutions followed, but Kennedy argues that Minnesota isn't the only state facing challenges. He points to California as another example where oversight may not be keeping pace with spending. According to Kennedy, California spends roughly $220 billion annually through Medicaid-related programs. A significant portion comes from federal taxpayers. And that's where his criticism becomes especially sharp, because he argues that some public officials begin treating federal funding as if it were free money that keeps flowing regardless of how effectively it's monitored. And then comes the section of the speech that generated the most attention, because Kennedy starts listing examples of services he says are being funded through California's Medicaid system. And the list becomes
in California, under its state government's definition of Medicaid, the California Medicaid program will pay for tribal prayers. The California Medicaid program will pay for exorcisms. The California Medicaid program will pay for herbal medicines. The California Medicaid program will pay for meal deliveries. In some cases, the California Medicaid program will pay for in-home chefs. Thousands of businesses have popped up in California that literally cater to Medicaid patients. The Medicaid program in California will pay for sports club fees. The Medicaid program in California will pay for a gym membership. The Medicaid program in California will actually pay student loans. They do it under the guise of, well, we want to encourage people to become healthcare providers, and they can't do it if they have onerous financial burdens, so we'll pay for their health care. Now, once again, Medicaid is supposed to be for sick people. And other people's money, it's real easy to expand beyond that. The Medicaid program in California will pay for scooters. I get that. Sometimes that might be necessary. Bicycles, but it'll also pay for music lessons. The Medicaid program in California will also pay for art lessons. This money didn't just fall from heaven. We all thank heaven for it, but it came out of people's pockets.
This is the moment where many viewers stop and ask, wait, what? Kennedy cites reporting describing services that he argues go far beyond Medicaid's original purpose. He lists tribal prayers, exorcisms, herbal medicine, meal deliveries, in some cases, in-home chefs, gym memberships, sports club fees, student loan assistance, music lessons, art lessons. Supporters of these programs argue that health outcomes